Hare Krishna, welcome dear devotees. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we have been continuing this journey for a month now, meditating on Krishna's pastimes from the 10th canto. Just last week, Hari Parshad Prabhu helped us dive deeper into the Rasa dance, the Rasa Panchadhyay for the 5 chapters. And then we had Amarendra Prabhu come in yesterday, who so beautifully described and narrated the prayers of the gopis, the cries of the gopis. And it's my great honor and fortune to invite and welcome our guest today, Her Grace Madhumati Devi. Hare Krishna, Madhumati Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. Jai. Thank you so much for making the time and joining us today on the GBC SPT platform. It's such an honor to have you here. And for those of you that don't know Madhumati Devi, she has been practicing Krishna consciousness for probably over 4 decades. And she has been living in New Ramanreti Dham for 20 years as a young enthusiast, spiritual enthusiast looking for Krishna consciousness. She met some devotees in Ireland and decided to dedicate her life to Srila Prabhupada in this mission. And today we have the great fortune to hear from her about the pastimes of, when Kaṁsa sends Akrūra for Krishna from the 36th chapter of the 10th canto. So without further ado, I request Madhumati Devi to please help us meditate on this beautiful chapter and unfold that before our eyes. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Govinda Priya Devi Dasi. Thank you for allowing me to say something on this chapter. So before I speak, I will say the invocation prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Shri Padaya Krishna Prashaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namne. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaura Vani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Vansha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. So as Govinda Priya Devi was saying, that we are hearing today from 36th chapter of Krishna book and Srimad Bhagavatam. The very first thing I noticed while preparing for the class were the titles of this chapter. Now, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the title for 36th chapter is called The Slaying of Arishta, the Bull Demon. And Krishna book says, Kaṁsa sends Akrūra for Krishna. So if you really look at this chapter as a drama, this drama has 2 acts. And the first act is given by the Srimad Bhagavatam title, it's The Slaying of Arishta. And the second act is given in Krishna book, Kaṁsa sends Akrūra for Krishna. So and then the first act is certainly in Vrindavan. So we've been hearing in pastimes about Vrindavan. So the first act is still in Vrindavan. And the second one is in Kaṁsa's court. In the previous chapter, which is Gopi's feelings of separation, and we just heard from Amarendra Prabhu yesterday, he's such a beautiful rendition. We see that in Srila Prabhupada's book, in Krishna book, and I quote Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada writes, the gopis of Vrindavan were so attached to Krishna that they were not satisfied simply with the rasa dance at night. They wanted to associate with him and enjoy his company during the daytime also. And in the very next chapter, now Sukadeva Goswami, our Rasika Bhakta, he's indicating that Krishna is going to be taken away from Vrindavan. So you can see immediately, if you just heard about the feelings of separation of the gopis from Krishna, and then you hear, oh, somebody is going to take Krishna away from the gopis, immediately you're thinking, oh, what will happen to the gopis? This is Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is, there's so much nectar. At least even in the very start of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva writes, Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. This is, please drink this Bhagavatam, which is all pure nectar. And so Sukadeva Goswami, our speaker here, he is churning the nectar. He knows not only that he tastes, but he wants us to taste. And so he presents it in such a beautiful way that we can also relish the pastimes. I mean, you can imagine that Sukadeva Goswami is sitting down in front of all this huge audience, and this audience are from all kinds of background. And so he's really trying to get them into the pastimes of Sri Krishna. So before we go to Kaṁsa's court, where the discussion is about Krishna, the plans to take Krishna away from Vrindavan, we will still continue to stay in Vrindavan. And this is the demon Aristasura is coming to Vrindavan to attack Krishna. So Sukadeva Goswami, he, first of all, when he's describing Aristasura, he describes him, he's a bull. So he describes that he has a very large hump. And when he walks, he's making the earth tremble, and he's taking it apart with his hooves. Actually, one of the acharyas described that Aristasura, he entered Krishna's village at twilight, and the Lord was actually preparing to dance with the gopis. So we see the demonic nature coming right at the time when somebody is having fun, and so they want to spoil the fun. So here's Aristasura is coming, this huge bull. And when he came, as he was coming, he bellowed very harshly, and his tail was raised up high, and his eyes were glaring, and he was tearing the embankments with the tips of his horns. And it's interesting, Sukadeva Goswami, how next thing he describes, he says, and he was passing a little stool and urine. I went to the Sanskrit and it said kinchit, but not one time. He says kinchit. So Sukadeva Goswami is so descriptive of what the bull was doing. It's just not thoda, but thoda, as we say in Hindi. So, and that's something, remember that, because he's going to come to this aspect later on again. But here he describes that he was passing stool and urine just a little bit. Sukadeva Goswami is not shy. He's very descriptive in his Bhagavatam, as we have been hearing. Anyway, so he comes back to the hump of Aristasura. And the hump, again, is so large that the clouds mistake the hump as a mountain. And so it's surrounding. You've seen mountains when they're surrounded by clouds. So that's how Sukadeva Goswami is describing. But when the cowherd boys, cowherd men and the cowherd ladies, when they saw this demon, their hearts were struck with terror. It reminded me of 2 years ago, before COVID, I was in Vrindavan, and we were visiting Vrindavan Goshala. And it was at a time where the cowherd men were bringing the cows back to their barn fence. But there was one bull, I remember, big, I think it was dark color, black colored bull. And he got this bull in a separate fence, a large area, and a separate, just him on his own. And later on to find out that this bull was like feisty and mad, and I saw that bull and he was so scary. And when he entered the fenced area, he was digging with his paw the ground, and and all the dirt was flying, and you could see he was so angry, and it was so scary, although he was fenced, but still it was very frightening. So you can imagine how these cowherd men and ladies, they're seeing this huge bull coming, and they were struck with terror. And his was roaring so loudly that he frightened the pregnant cows and the ladies, and they actually had miscarriages. This is pretty. Sometimes, we as city dwellers, sometimes we don't realize what these things are like. I mean, yeah, I saw the bull there, or here we live in somewhat a little farm community, although we don't have any animals, but at the temple we have. But still, at least I don't get to see things like that. So I went on Google, and I would encourage all of you to even see that, how bulls can be so frightening. I saw one bull was let loose, and this was in some village. I don't think it was India, but this bull was causing so much terror. He was trampling on people and knocking carts out, and so we can imagine how these cowherd men and women were so frightened. They were so frightened. Radha Govinda Maharaj, he always talks about that in order to actually appreciate the Srimad Bhagavatam, one should experience village life, or those who have lived in the village, they can more so easily appreciate and understand the Bhagavatam. But, we have Google, so we can go and kind of have some little experience, I guess. And okay, so that was that. But even the domestic animals, they were eating their grass, and they fled out of fear. So everybody was in fear. And what do Brajabasis do when they're in fear? They called out, Krishna, Krishna. And when the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, when he saw his devotees fleeing in fear, he calmed them down, and he said, no, don't be afraid. And in that way, they knew that Krishna will take care. So they were calmed down. But then he went to the bull and he said, and I quote, "You fool, what do you think you're doing, you wicked rascal, frightening the cowherd community and their animals, when I am here just to punish corrupt miscreants like you?" And after Lord Krishna spoke these words, he indicated that he was ready to fight. He slapped his arms with his palms, and he made a huge sound, a real loud sound that really made Arishtasura angry. But this is the best part of this pastime, at least for me. After he did that, our dear Lord Krishna, he casually threw his arm, his mighty serpentine arm, that's how Sukadeva Goswami says, he casually just threw over the shoulder of a friend, and he stood facing the demon. You can imagine, Krishna acts so cool. First, he challenges him, and now he makes it worse by just kind of, coolly just hanging out there, and he faces the demon. One thought came to my mind that actually in order to visualize that, I know most of you have seen Krishna Balaram in Vrindavan. We also here in Alachua have very beautiful Krishna Balaram. I agree with our temple president, the most beautiful Krishna Balaram deities. And you see how Balaram is just so relaxed. His arm is, on Krishna's shoulder. And so same way we can meditate like that Krishna has his arm on his friend's shoulder. And one thought came to my mind that here Krishna is ready to fight, but now he's relaxing, seemingly. So sometimes when we're calling out to Krishna and we're thinking, wow, I prayed to Krishna, and why he's not coming? Why is he not responding? Krishna, you can think about this pastime, or you can think about this particular scene where Krishna is having his shoulder relaxed on his friend's, his arm on his friend's shoulder, because Krishna does a lot of things. And while he's relaxing like that, he's actually working on our prayers that we have. Here the Brijabasis are saying their prayers, and Krishna is standing there. But he's not standing there, he's fighting. He already slapped his arms, and now he's doing the second part, which is like churning emotions. He's getting Arishtasura to get more angry. And in our case, probably he's churning our emotions, where we have to call out more. We have to more depend on Krishna. So don't ever think that, we should never think that Krishna is not responding. He's responding, but he's right now currently just casually relaxing on his arm on his friend's shoulder. So anyway, so Arista was really provoked by this whole scene. So he furiously charged Krishna, and he pointing the tips of his horns straight ahead and glaring like in a very threatening way that here I come and get you, with his bloodshot eyes. And as he rushed towards Krishna like the thunderbolt hurled by Indra, Lord Krishna, he caught hold of Arishtasura's horns, and then he threw him back 18 steps, specifically Sukadeva Goswami says 18 steps, just like an elephant might do when fighting a rival elephant. Again, this is something I went and saw about 2 elephants fighting on our Google. Anyway, so that didn't stop the bull demon. He got really angry further, and again he attacked Krishna. And this time Krishna again caught his horn, and by his foot he laid him flat on the ground, and then he thrashed him like wet cloth. I was thinking how in India, they wash their clothes and they beat the wet cloth on the floor, at least it made me think of that. And that's how he thrashed him till the demon lay prostrate, paid his dandavats. Anyway, so at that time he vomited blood, and as I said, that Sukadeva Goswami comes back to this this description about excreting stool and urine. This time it wasn't kinchit. He describes it was samutsrijan. In other words, he was profusely excreting stool and urine, and he went to the abode of death. As that happened, the demigods showered flowers on our Lord Krishna, and after that, Krishna, along with Balaram, entered the cowherd village. Sukadeva Goswami describes that Krishna is a festival for the gopis' eyes. He who is a festival for the gopis' eyes entered the cowherd village with Balaram. So this verse exemplifies the Acharya's right, the sublime contrast of spiritual qualities within Shri Krishna. In one 4-line verse, we hear about Lord Krishna killed a powerful and wicked demon, and then his boyish beauty gave festive pleasure to his young girlfriends. So as we know, we have heard many times, hard as a thunderbolt and soft as a rose. So this is our first act in Sri Vrindavan Dham. Now we go to the second act, and this is in Kaṁsa's court. So after Arishtasura had been killed by Krishna, Narad Muni went to speak to Kaṁsa. Now Narad Muni, being a great sage, he knew that more or less Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan are concluded. And in order to facilitate the pastimes, to go from Vrindavan to Mathura, Narada acts as that person to go and talk to Kaṁsa. Narada Muni, we all know that he facilitates the pastime, so they keep on moving. Whenever you're doing some work, something, you need a person to make sure that things are going and we don't stop. So Narada Muni seems to take that role quite often. And so he goes to Kaṁsa's court. And he tells Kaṁsa, he says, by the way, do you know that Yashoda's child was actually a daughter? And Krishna is the son of Devaki. And also Ram is the son of Rohini. He tells Narada, reveals everything to Kaṁsa, that this is what had happened. He had taken, Vasudeva had taken Krishna in the middle of the night, and the shackles, the doors open, how the Jamuna part. He tells everything to Kaṁsa. And at that stage, you can imagine how Kaṁsa was feeling, how he couldn't believe that Kaṁsa thought, how could he be cheated like that? How could Vasudeva, who was truth personified, how did he cheat me? And so he was ready right there and then to kill Vasudeva. He took out his sword and ready to kill, and Narada had to tell him, listen, Kaṁsa. It was out of fear. It's not that Vasudeva was trying to trick you, or he was trying to make a fool of you, or it was just out of fear that Vasudeva did that. And it's not right for you to attack or kill somebody who is in fear. You shouldn't do that. And not only that, he said, listen, if you kill Vasudeva, then what's going to happen? The news will go back to Vrindavan that you killed Vasudeva, and then Nanda is just going to take the two boys and go and hide somewhere till they grow big, and then they will come and attack you. So I don't think so it's a wise thing for you to kill Vasudeva. And hearing that, Kaṁsa was like, okay, I'm not going to do that. But he did make sure right there that Vasudeva and his wife was shackled in iron chains. And so, and then Narada also advised Kaṁsa that rather than, he told him that, you have sent so many of your men to Vrindavan to kill Krishna. And the fact is, all of them died. And it was Krishna who killed them. And so rather than sending somebody more to Vrindavan, better if you bring the boys here. So this was Narada who actually told Kaṁsa to do so. He said, there, Krishna and Balaram, they know their surroundings. They know, because they're in their element there, they are more powerful. But if you bring Krishna and Balaram here, then they are in your environment. And then you are the one who is strong, and they'll be the weak one. And so in that way, Narada encouraged Kaṁsa to somehow they bring the boys here. And I think Narada might have recommended, if I remember hearing Radha Govinda Maharaj's class on this, that he might have recommended that, do a festival or something on that pretext, you can bring them here. And so after this conversation, Narada leaves Kaṁsa's court, and then Kaṁsa actually calls for Keshi demon and tells him to go and kill Krishna and Balaram. It's interesting that even after Narada told him that don't send anybody there because they're just going to get killed, Kaṁsa still sends, asks for Keshi to go there. And one of the reasons he did that because he did not want anybody to know that this communication happened with him and Narada, and that he was ready to kill Vasudeva. He didn't want even that information to go out. Although he is foolish because, as Narada told him, don't send anybody, there's no use. He's still, demonic mentality, he still sent Keshi. After he sent Keshi demon, he called all his ministers in the court. And he called the wrestlers, Mustika, Chanura, Shala, and Toshala, and he called for the elephant keepers. And as he addressed them, he really praised them. He called them heroic. He's trying to get them to do something big, and so he praises them, enthuses them, and he tells them, and he actually says the name of Krishna and Balaram. He says, please hear what I have to say. Ram and Krishna, they're actually the sons of Vasudeva. And they are not sons of Nanda and Yashoda. And these two boys are actually meant to be the cause of my death. So they're going to be brought here, and I want you to kill them. We're going to call them here in the pretext of a wrestling match. And he said, we're going to have a big festival. We're going to call all the residents. It's going to be an open competition. So everybody is invited. So make sure, arrange everything very nicely. And then he told the elephant keeper, I want your elephant, the huge elephant, Kolayapida, right at the entrance of the gate. Normally that gate is for all the people to come in, to enter the wrestling arena. But he said, I want that elephant to be there so that when Krishna and Balaram, they come for in the wrestling arena, you don't allow them to enter, just kill them right there. So, his mind is very active, and how to kill Krishna, the demonic mentality, you see that he's thinking every way how I can do that. And then he says that we're going to start this function in an auspicious day on Chaturdashi day, according to the Vedic injunctions, and we will ritually do offer appropriate animals and to Lord Shiva. He's magnanimous, so he's thinking how to do everything in such a way that it will bring fortune to him. Little does Kaṁsa know that trying to kill Krishna will not bring any fortune. Anyway, so after he did that, he called for Akrūra. Kaṁsa, he knew how to secure personal advantage, and so he took Akrūra's hand in his own hand. Normally, you take someone's hand in your own hand is when there's some equal friendship. And Kaṁsa was the king, and Akrūra was just one of his subject. But he approached him in that mood because he was trying to get him to do some work for him. And he expresses in a very friendly way, oh, you're most charitable one. Please do me a friendly favor out of respect. Nobody is as kind as you amongst the Bhojas and Vrishnis. Oh, gentle Akrūra, you always carry out the duties so soberly. So I depend on you. Just like Indra depends on Upendra. Now, when Kaṁsa is giving that example, according to him, Indra is superior, and Upendra means younger to Indra, and meaning Lord Vamandev. He's saying, you're like Upendra and I'm like Indra, and Indra kind of depends on Upendra. So I am depending on you. And so please do this little favor for me. Please go to Nanda's village and without any delay, take this chariot. And apparently the chariot was there. He was pointing out, take this chariot, a brand new chariot. Kaṁsa thought that since Akrūra was, very innocent by nature, if he sees this nice chariot, he would naturally want to drive it, like somebody saying, oh, I've got this new Mercedes or whatever fancy car, and take this. So a person who is like a young person, oh, yes, I want to drive this car. So he thought, oh, Akrūra is going to be very excited about getting to drive this chariot. But certainly that was not the reason that Akrūra wanted to go on that chariot. Although Akrūra was thinking, oh, this is good. It's a new chariot, and Krishna and Balaram deserve to sit on a new chariot, not in some old chariot. So that was how Akrūra was thinking. But Kaṁsa was thinking differently, trying to entice Akrūra to do his work. So he said, the demigods have sent these two boys as my debt. So I want these two boys to come here. And I also want Nanda and all the other cowherd men to come with gifts of tribute. So please invite everybody to come. And then he tells Akrūra that after you bring Krishna Balaram, and I'll have them killed by my elephant, and if they escape that, then Chanura and Mustika, they will definitely kill them. And after they're killed, then I'll kill Vasudeva, I'll kill all the other relatives. I will also kill my old father, Ugrasen, who's greedy for my kingdom, and I'll kill his brother Devaka. And then he says, and then, my dear friend, the earth will be free of thorns. He said, and then my relative, Jarasandha, he's married to his daughters. So he says, my elder relative Jarasandha and my friend Vivida, and they're all my well-wishers, and others, Narka and Bana, all of them. I'll use them to kill off all the other kings who are with the demigods, and then I will rule the earth. When I was reading that, I thought about, in Bhagavad Gita, Ishwaraham Aham Bhogi, so much wealth do I have today. He's my enemy, I've killed him, and my other enemies also will be killed. I'm the Lord of everything. I'll give some charity. We heard that how he was going to give, animals in charity to Lord Shiva. And so this is, you can see Kaṁsa certainly showing the perfect example of demonic nature here. He's expressing, people sometimes think those things, but he's very happy to express his thoughts to Akrūra and to all his ministers who are sitting there. And he says, so now that you understand my intentions, go at once and bring Krishna Balaram and to watch the bow sacrifice and to see the opulence of the Yadu's capital. So Akrūra responded. And Akrūra is also a diplomat, and he's his subject, so he talks to his king in a very nice way. He says, you have really expertly devised this process to free yourself of this misfortune. But I do want to say that, you should be equal in success and failure. And, we don't know what destiny will bring for us. So it is the destiny that produces the results of one's work. So, please do know that. And although he said those words, he was, internally he was feeling that, your plan is not fit to execute, and I'm going to carry out what you're telling me to do, but just in case you don't know, you're going to die. But those were his inner thoughts. But anyway, he said, he told Kaṁsa, he said, an ordinary person is very determined to act on his desires, even when fate is preventing. But therefore, we should be equal in happiness and distress. So he gave him a little Bhagavad Gita. But he said, I'm going to do what you're asking me to do, and I'll execute your order. And so, having said that, Akrūra then leaves for home, and all the ministers leave Kaṁsa's court. Some thoughts on this second part of our act here, second act. We see that Kaṁsa, on the pretext of inviting Krishna and Balaram, he's outwardly saying that, come and enjoy the capital, Mathura cities, look at the opulence, what we have, come and enjoy, watch the competition, take part in the competition, everybody come. And so he's outwardly saying that. But internally, he's planning to kill them. We see that kind of duplicitous behavior here, saying something and doing something. But if we really see the other characters as well, if we look at Narada, now Kaṁsa thinks that Narada is his friend, his true friend. Apparently when Narada would come, anytime Narada would come into Kaṁsa's court, Narada would say, okay, everybody is dismissed, everybody leave. And so Kaṁsa and Narada would speak. Kaṁsa always felt that Narada was his well-wisher. I mean, ultimately, in the absolute sense, yes, we know that Narada is his well-wisher. But that's in the absolute sense. But as far as Kaṁsa and Narada, in the sense that, as far as the play is concerned, as far as the pastime is concerned, Kaṁsa thinks that Narada is well-wisher, and he's trying to help Kaṁsa to kill Krishna and Balaram. He really feels that. So Narada has Kaṁsa fooled, has fooled Kaṁsa. And Narada is also coming. He has something else in his heart, but he's coming and telling Kaṁsa, you should bring Krishna and Balaram here, and, da-da-da-da. And so Narada is also saying something to Kaṁsa, but has some other thoughts in his mind. And he has a different plan. And the plan is to kill Kaṁsa and to get the pastimes going. And if you see Akrūra is also another person like that. We know when Kaṁsa heard, and I think it was from Narada Muni, where earlier on Krishna's pastimes, when Narada told Kaṁsa that, basically indicating that you don't know who the first son is, which is the first son and the eighth son. And I think during that time, Narada told that all these kings in the Vrishni dynasty and the Bhoja dynasty, most of them are demigods. They have taken birth in this dynasty, but they're demigods, and they're here to see your end. At that time, Kaṁsa started to cause havoc there in the Mathura city. And so people from Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties, the families, they fled in different neighboring countries. And so there was practically no one there from that dynasty working for Kaṁsa. However, Akrūra, I'm sure there were others, but we do know of Akrūra. Akrūra was one who actually stayed there, and his meditation was that he knew that Krishna, his Lord, was coming, and so he wanted to stay there working for Kaṁsa just so that he could meet Krishna. And so he pretended the whole time to be Kaṁsa's friend. And therefore you can see that Kaṁsa, in a very, that he trusted Akrūra. He could have just told Akrūra, oh, I'm having this match and could you bring the boys? But no, he openly tells Akrūra all his plans, what he's planning to do. So we see that Akrūra also fooled Kaṁsa. And in that sense, how Kaṁsa was acting with Krishna and Balaram, Akrūra was acting with Kaṁsa. And so Narada. So what is the difference? Well, we all know the big difference is Kaṁsa, what he wanted to do. He wanted to kill Krishna Balaram, whereas Narada and Akrūra were acting as instruments. Narada was acting as an instrument to facilitate Krishna's pastimes, and in that sense, Akrūra was also, because he was bringing Krishna and Balaram, but also as a devotee, his desire to serve his Lord, to see his Lord. And so that is the big difference. So it may seem for a mundane moralist that how is that, the devotees like Narada and Akrūra acting in such way and seem like a duplicitous way, just like Kaṁsa, and a materialist would see that as something not right. But when something is done for the service of Krishna, then that is real morality. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta writes, and I quote, "The morality of the object of spiritual love transcends the secular morality. The highest sense of morality of the unadulterated soul consists in its love towards the oversoul, the supreme soul, and the culmination of this pure love is found only in the devotees of Krishna." And so we see that Akrūra and Narada, we see that culmination of this pure love being found in the devotees, in these devotees. And that's why, even though it may seem to a materialist that they may be acting improperly, that they're not. Certain that doesn't mean that we act in improper or immoral way that is accepted in the material world, because if we act in an immoral way, then who will hear our preaching? Who will hear Krishna's pastimes from our mouth if we are acting in an immoral way? But so that's not the point. But the point here is that Krishna's devotees, they are a culmination of this pure love, and that's what we see in this pastime of Krishna. What is it? Kaṁsa sends Akrūra to Vrindavan. What's the title? I forget already. Yeah, Kaṁsa sends Akrūra for Krishna. So, so yeah, these are some of the pastime of thoughts and pastime of these two acts of Aristasura and Akrūra. If anybody has any comments, realizations, questions, please, you may do so now.
Thank you so much, Madhumati Prabhu. Such a beautiful presentation and very well narrated, the intricacies of the pastime. and highlighting the role of Narada Muni. Thank you so much. We have a lot of appreciation flowing in and gratitude for your presentation today. Um, this question has been coming up constantly in the past regarding how can one actually very systematically study Srila Prabhupada's books, in spite of not having inspiration. There have been a few comments lately that, we want to read Srila Prabhupada's books, but somehow, even if we set aside a time and we read, we don't understand, or, um, we're not having enough time to read. What would your suggestion or recommendation be for devotees that are struggling to include reading in their daily sadhana?
What we have in Alachua, we have few study groups, and I would say reading groups, and I find them very, very helpful. So we have 3-4 reading groups. We literally read, and it's on Zoom. So you find friends who want to read, and it's amazing. One of the readings is for 1 hour. A couple of readings are for an hour, and some other readings for an hour and a half. But even if you do for a half an hour reading that you can do with somebody, and again, with technology now, you can do that kind of reading with anybody. And it's amazing how much Shastra gets covered. We've been doing that reading for quite many years now. Many years. We had studied the Bhagavatam, and devotees come in and go. So we have like an open reading thing, but there are few devotees who are very set, who come regularly. And I personally find for myself that has been very, very inspiring and easy, because time is always hard. But when you're committed with somebody else and it's on Zoom and you're at home, and and it's pretty good. And it's not even Zoom, actually. It's just anyway, teleconference or something. So we don't even see each other. We're just on the phone and we read. So we have covered Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Gopal Champ. I mean, we've covered a lot of books just because of this kind of once a week with one group, once a week with some other group like that. So
wonderful. So basically finding a partner to read with, even if it's not a group.
Yeah, finding a partner. Yeah, finding a partner. Yeah. One-to-one basis. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's very valuable. Thank you. It's always helpful. It was so wonderful to have you on this GBC SPT platform, and we hope we can have you back again soon. I want to thank all our viewers. We have quite a few of them watching us live, and then a lot of them watch the videos later. So thank you so much for joining us today. And if you could please take a moment to either subscribe to our Facebook or YouTube channels to stay updated about all the wonderful events. You can also subscribe to our newsletter by going to the gbcspt.com, and you'll be updated about all our upcoming events. We still have a few more days for Kartik, and we still have a few more wonderful speakers lined up. So stay tuned, and we will see you all tomorrow. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki.
Thank you, Jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.